Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Caitlin, your geeky girlfriend, and we're going to do another Bookie Babe book review in today's video. And today's video marks book 16 for the year, and if you are new here or if this is your first time watching one of my Bookie Babe videos, my goal for the year of 2024 was to read 24 books, and so this one marks number 16, and we are not even halfway through the year, so I'm feeling pretty confident that I will be able to meet my goal, which is great. And today was actually a book club pick. And I did join a second book club. So now I'm a member of two different book clubs. So I'm going to be reading titles for those and then reading fun stuff in between. But today's book is The Women by Kristin Hannah. This is a book that was just released in 2024. This is her newest title. Kristin Hannah has written over 20 books. This was my first one of hers. And this is a historical fiction novel set during and around the time of the Vietnam War. So it starts when the war is just beginning. The main character, Frankie, enlists in the Army Nurse Corps to go, be with her brother in Vietnam. He was drafted. And then the story kind of unfolds from there. So she was unable to get into the Navy. She's unable to get into the Air Force. So she ends up in the Army Nurse Corps. She meets some incredible women, sees some amazing yet very scary and quite horrifying things over there. And then part two of the novel, kind of, not to spoil it, but a little bit, I mean, when you hear about a main character who's going to war, it's pretty assumed that the main character makes it through the entire novel, or else what novel would there be? So part two of the novel shows Frankie's homecoming and kind of the reality of being a Army nurse and a Vietnam vet and all of those things in America at that time. And like I said, this was my first Kristin Hannah novel. I think it was written very well. It is a fast read. I will say Frankie obviously is a nurse, as I've said, and I am not a nurse. I know nothing about nursing. I don't do well with blood or gore. So there were parts of this that for me, I was like cringing a little bit reading, and there were parts that I simply just didn't understand because I'm not aware of the medical knowledge. But I think nurse friends, if you are looking for another book to read or to try out, I think if you're a nurse, you would enjoy this a little bit more than I did. But I will say, I still gave it a 4-star on Goodreads. I had no problem getting through it. It didn't put me to sleep at all or anything like that, because some of them sometimes do. They get a little dry in parts. This one, the plot was tumultuous. It kept going. It kept twisting and turning. And there were predictions that I made at the beginning of the book that some of them came true, some of them did not. So that's always a mix of joy and frustration. But if you're looking for a novel with a strong female lead or a very feminist plot and very feminist plot heavy, then this is a great one. I did add some more Kristin Hannah titles to my list because of this book, and it is lengthy. It's 480 pages total. I thought the print size was moderate. It was pretty easy to read in terms of that. And I didn't, and here's the breakdown between this is part 1 and this is part 2. So part 1 is a little bit longer, a little bit more lengthy, and then part 2 just kind of wraps everything up. I feel like the story did come to a nice close at the end. And I really liked the messages, and I really liked the history. It made me really, really interested in the Vietnam War, really, really interested in the Vietnam Veterans Movement and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and all of those things. It made me kind of want to go revisit those sites and do a little bit more research into this period of time that obviously happened before, many decades before I was alive. So it's just an interesting part of our history that I think a lot of people don't want to talk about, and it makes me want to do more research about it and read other books that follow the Vietnam War and nurses in the Vietnam War. And she has written other historical fiction works if you're interested in those. Like I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads simply because the parts where she was very vividly describing some of the medical traumas that she was seeing, some of that, the war stuff I was able to visualize, but some of the actual medical terminology and the medical procedures, I had a hard time like visualizing and really fully understanding what was happening. But that's just because I don't know what a Kelly clamp is. I don't know like different things like that. So if you're a nurse, then it would be, you know, this would probably be a 5-star read for you if you are a nurse. And this book does have very, very good reviews. It's like 4.5 to 5 stars across the board. And it is, like I said, it was just released in March of 2024, so it's brand new. It's kind of hard to get at your local library, but I was able to snag a copy. As you can see, I walked in, it was on the shelf, and I took it and from the library. But, you know, it is available on Amazon for like $18. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say. This is not just a historical fiction wartime novel. There is a little bit of romance. There's some drama, some drug and alcohol use as well. And I will put a trigger warning in here for those of us who are going through like fertility trouble, infertility, miscarriages, pregnancy, anything like that. At one point in the novel, pregnancy loss is discussed, and it was hard to read. It was hard to kind of think about and put my mind into like being able to read and cope with that. So just keep that in mind. There's also references to suicide. There's references to torture and prisoners of war as associated with the Vietnam War. So this book does have a lot of content that could be triggering for some. So I always like to put out there, you know, in my videos and in my reviews, what could be hard for some people to read. So keep that in mind. I would say out of a score of a 10, I would say it's like an 8 to an 8.5. On Storygraph, I actually gave it a 4.5 stars out of 5. It just didn't hit that 5-star mark for me because of the medical stuff. And I know I've said that a lot, but for me, it was kind of those were the parts that I kind of just wanted to skip over, but I didn't want to miss any of the war stuff. So I kind of just had to power through. But I would definitely say it is worth the read, especially if you don't know a lot about the Vietnam War, because for me, it opened up my eyes to a lot of troubles that the vets experienced, a lot of troubles that the soldiers and the nurses and all of these people experienced during this time. And previously, the only exposure I had had to the Vietnam War was, or like media about it, were some episodes of This Is Us and Good Morning Vietnam. Those are the only two like media references I've even watched in my own life to kind of give me a frame of mind of what the Vietnam War was, why it happened. And like I said, this book opened up a new curiosity about that. And I would say if you don't know a lot about the Vietnam War, this is a great place to start, a great way to open your eyes to it. But if you do know a lot about the Vietnam War, I would be interested to hear, or if you were alive during the Vietnam War, I would be interested to see how this novel kind of reflects what being an American citizen, what you were told. Like, does it match, like her descriptions of the media, does it match what was actually true? If you're a veteran, did it match? But also, if you're a veteran, you know, don't read this if you think it's going to cause you additional trauma, obviously. But yeah, as we approach Memorial Day, I feel like this is a very apt book to talk about this weekend, to remember and thank all of our servicemen and women for their service to our country that they are continuing to fight unknown and known battles all around the world. And this is a sincere thank you to all of you and all that you do for your country and your people. And I think Frankie's service in the women, you know, her passion for nursing and what she does really shines through. And as somebody who is kind of in a spot where I don't really know what my passion is anymore, my passion might be changing, it was inspiring to hear Frankie kind of be so driven by this career and by, you know, this drive to help people, this drive to save people. That alone was inspiring. So I think regardless of who you are, what kind of profession you're in, your relationship to the Vietnam War, your relationship to nursing. I think as a woman, there's something in here for all of us. And like I said, I would recommend this book to all. I gave it a 4-star rating on Goodreads. You can check out my full review over there, Caitlin McClure at Your Geeky Girlfriend on Goodreads. But also, I would give it like an 8.5, just as a solid book to read. This was one of my first historical fiction novels ever, and I really liked it. It kind of, like I said, it opened my eyes to historical fiction genre, and that's the great thing about being in a book club is you're kind of forced is a loose word, but you're kind of pushed to read things outside of your comfort zone. So I'm being pushed to read more historical fiction, more adult literature, more fantasy, those types of things that I normally on my own would not read. So if you have the opportunity to join a book club, I highly recommend it. And if you have the opportunity to read Kristin Hannah's The Women, I would also highly recommend that. And this was book number 16 for the year. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for more. And also check out my 5-star, all the 5-star books that I've ever read. We're going to rank those, so that video will be coming very shortly. And also check out my mid-year review movies edition for all the movies that I've watched in the past 6 or 7 months. We're given a score, they were given a tier, and you can go check that out right here on my channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Happy Memorial Day, and thank you, veterans, for your service.